It was Father's Day when the knock came, a bright, efficient rap that should have felt like a hug through wood. Sunlight poured down the front steps, pooling in rectangles on the foyer tile. The doormat smelled faintly of cut grass from yesterday's mowing. Everything about the morning was so normal, so friendly, that it took a second for the hairs on my arms to rise when I saw the box. "Mr. Dalton," the delivery man said, already smiling, already angling his electronic pad for my signature. "Special Sunday run. Someone really wanted this to get here today. Happy Father's Day." I signed, because that's what polite men my age do even when our gut says, "Wait a second." The box was shoebox size, taped as if the sender feared the Atlantic Ocean might try to climb through the seams. No gift wrap. No handwritten card. A printed label. No return address. Only my name, our street, our tidy little town. "From who?" my wife called from the kitchen. The faucet ran. Her voice came wrapped in dish soap steam and the clink of white plates. "Doesn't say," I called back. I carried the package into the living room and set it on the coffee table, the old one we'd bought after our 20th anniversary with the carved lip and the tiny nicks that memory insists are charming. I was halfway to the junk drawer for scissors when Evelyn appeared in the doorway, drying her hands on a towel. She was in her robe, hair pinned back, face still creased from the pillow. Sunday softness. She stopped. The towel stopped. The air seemed to stop. "Frank," she said quietly, "don't open it." I blinked. "What?" "Look." She stepped closer, but not too close, one finger hovering over the cardboard like a dowser's twig. It pointed to 3 tiny dots. No holes. Pinpricks. A cluster on one side, another near a corner. The kind you make on purpose when you don't want something to suffocate. A sound happened then, so small we might have missed it if we weren't staring. A whisper of movement inside, like tissue paper sighing. All at once the world narrowed to our coffee table, to glue seams and corrugation, to the way my jaw clenched without being told. "Breathing holes," Evelyn said, her voice now a tight braid. "There's something alive in there." There was another sound, a longer one. Not a sigh. A hiss. My hand went cold around the scissors I had forgotten I was holding. "Call," she whispered. "Call right now." I put the scissors down as if they'd grown hot and pulled my phone from my pocket. I had to unlock it twice because my hands weren't obeying my mind. 911 rang in my ear like the school bell you know means trouble. "Emergency dispatch," a woman said with that calm that makes you want to believe nothing bad could ever happen. "What's your emergency?" "There's a package," I said. "It was delivered just now. There are breathing holes and it's making sounds." Hissing. "Is the package inside your residence, sir?" "Yes." "On my coffee table." "Is anyone injured?" "No, please remain a safe distance from the package. Do not touch it, do not open it, and do not move it. I'm dispatching officers and animal control." I repeated that to Evelyn because the sound of instructions turns panic into action. We moved to the far side of the room, as if 6 feet of rug and air could stop whatever was becoming awake inside that box. The hiss came again, a longer ribbon of sound this time, then the close quiet of 2 people trying to breathe softer than cardboard. The knock I had answered 5 minutes ago replayed in my head, only this time it was a memory with teeth. "Happy Father's Day." The words tasted sour. There are days when power gathers itself and points at you like a weather vane. A week ago was one of those days. Claire had stood in this room where the box sat now, arms folded, nails perfect, face bright with the theatrical fury she'd learned somewhere between the first cell phone we bought her and the 5th credit card she borrowed. "Dad," she'd said, the syllable sharpened to a weapon. "Do you even understand? I need the money now. Not when you die." The mug tumbled from her hand and shattered, coffee jumping like startled minnows, brown flecks dotting the Persian rug we loved because we'd picked it together, back when every bite felt like a vote for forever. I'd been holding a leather folder then, the one with our wills and the pages of notes where I had written numbers in careful columns, my life in commas. "I'm not an ATM," I told her. "You'll have your inheritance when the time comes." Mason, her husband, her shadow, the whole her better judgment fell into, lounged deeper into our couch and smirked. "Come on, Frank. She's your kid. What's a couple thousand to help?" Couple thousand, I said, and remembered the 5,000 for a medical bill, the 3,000 2 weeks later for a car emergency, the 7,000 before that for a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. I remembered selling my old Triumph motorcycle because she had cried in our kitchen and said words like drowning and last chance. Help, I said. We've been helping for 3 years. My retirement is not your subscription service. Please, Evelyn had said then, dish towel twisting. We can talk like adults. Claire swung toward her mother. Talk, she snapped. He's sitting on hundreds of thousands while we can't make rent. He wants to watch me suffer. You suffer, I told her, by choice. Debts you decided to make. I didn't swipe your cards. The family photo on the mantel had turned face down at some point, and I wasn't sure if it had fallen or been pushed. Me with my arm around Evelyn. Claire, 19 and laughing. That was before the world told her being special and being exempt were synonyms. Old man, Mason had said, rising oily with contempt. You think you're powerful because you can say no. That's pathetic. Get out, I said. Not loud. Not unkind. Just, to my astonishment, true. Both of you. Leave my house. You can't kick out your daughter, Claire hissed. I can, I said. I am. You'll regret it when you're alone, she spat. You chose money over family. The door had shaken when it slammed. The quiet afterward felt heavier than their yelling had. I could still feel it in my chest as I listened to a snake hiss in a cardboard room. Sirens don't sound like television in real life. They are warmer and closer and more human. The cruiser nose slid to the curb and 2 officers walked up the path with the practiced scan of people who have learned to read houses like open books. The younger one, Reeves, introduced himself, asked permission, asked us to show him. He didn't touch the box at first, only bent to look and listen. Animal control is already en route, he said, his eyes flicking to the holes. Looks like a snake. We're not going to open this without proper tools. Evelyn made a sound that was not a word. It's okay, Reeves said gently. This is what we do. The animal control van arrived, and the man who stepped out wore a gaze like a mechanic's, problem, solution, plus a cautious respect for teeth. He cut the tape in slow, shallow swipes, spoke in a low, even voice not to us but to the air. Okay, buddy. Easy. Let's see you. The first thing we saw was color, rust, and copper and gold, a living mosaic coiled in that dark. The snake lifted its head and flicked a pink-white tongue, reading the world by flavor, by wind. Corn snake, the man said. Non-venomous. Someone paid for a nice one, too. Someone. Reeves straightened and turned to me. May I ask, he said, if there's anyone you suspect would send this to frighten you? The answer came all on its own. I knew the charge on my credit card from 3 weeks ago, Reptilia Mart, $127.50. An emergency, she had said, after I'd confronted her about charges that didn't resemble groceries or school supplies or anything you buy if you're a mother who swears she's trying. A science kit for the kids, she'd said, and I hadn't asked which science kit ships express on a Sunday. But I heard myself say we've had disagreements. Nothing I want to put in a report. Because in that second, I was still a father and fathers do the weirdest things in the name of love, like protecting the children who aim at them. The animal control officer secured the snake in a clear box with air holes and a lock and carried it like a jar full of lightning. It'll go to a rescue, he said. Someone will adopt it the right way. The cruiser and the van left. The house exhaled. Evelyn watched me across the living room as if something in my face were a fuse. You think it was her, she said. I know it was, I said, and felt the knowledge harden into something that wouldn't bend. I called. She picked up on the second ring. Dad, she's saying, as if we hadn't flung knives at each other 6 days earlier. How's your day? Interesting package, I said. Anything you want to tell me? Mason laughed in the background, low, satisfied, private. Claire's breath caught. I have no idea what you mean, she said. Okay, I said, surprising myself with how level I sounded. I'll let you go. Dad, wait, she began, but I hung up because sometimes you must be the one to end the performance. Evelyn came and set her palm over my fist. What are you going to do? Stop being ashamed for saying no, I said, and make sure we're never this vulnerable again. That night I made tea I didn't drink and opened the laptop I used for paying bills, for looking at photographs of the grandkids, for reading the kind of news that tells you where the parade is and where the potholes are. I pulled up the bank site and entered numbers I could type with my eyes closed. Under authorized users, her name sat there in polite font next to card numbers printed as dots. I hovered my mouse over remove for a long breath. The last time I had hovered there, she'd called sobbing at 10 p.m. and said words like medicine and fever and please, Dad, and I'd backed away from the button like it was a ledge. This time I clicked. A small box blinked to life. Are you sure? I clicked again. Automatic transfers, cancel. Insurance premiums, cancel. Rent contributions, cancel. The emergency fund, she had convinced me to make a recurring monthly act of self-harm, cancel. New pins, new alerts, new passwords for the cellular plan, the home internet, the streaming service she'd added 4 extra user profiles to. I turned off the spigot and listened to the quiet of money not leaving. At 8:14 the next morning my phone rang. The line labeled Claire glowed like a siren. My card isn't working, she said without hello. What did you do? I grew up, I said. You can't do this without warning, she cried. My rent is due. Insurance. Groceries. You're 35, I said. Your emergencies aren't mine. There was a soft, theatrical snort in the background, Mason trying out menace. Claire's voice dropped into the silky register she used when she was about to firebomb a relationship. You won't see the kids again. For years, that threat had been the leash she yanked when she wanted my wallet to heal. I looked at Evelyn making eggs, sunlight drawing gold lines in her hair, and I heard myself say, if you use them as weapons, maybe they're safer at a distance. Silence. Then a new sound, anger static. This isn't over, she said. I hope it is, I said. They arrived in a noisy hurry an hour later. Tires squealed. A door slammed so hard the brass knocker bounced. I opened before the bell could ring a second time because I didn't intend to let them bruise the house. Claire bristled on the porch, mascara a little smeared from either rage or speed. Mason tried to make himself bigger by leaning forward. You think you can pull the plug like that, he said. You think there won't be consequences? There are always consequences, I said. That's the point. You owe us. Claire cried. You owe me. I'm your daughter. I owe you love, I said. And a word you've never learned. No. Mason took a step like a dog that's forgotten the length of its chain. Evelyn was there behind me, small and unafraid. Back off, she said to him, and there was something in her voice that made even his cruelty remember its manners. We know where you live, he said low, ugly. We know your routines. I know the difference, I said, between a bluff and a felony. They left when I didn't flinch. The door thudded. The house remembered how to breathe again. Margaret, I said to Evelyn. We go see Margaret. Our attorney had the kind of office that makes you sit straighter, a wall of books, a window that could frame a courthouse. She listened while I laid it all out. The will, the coffee cup shattering, the snake, the threats. This is harassment, she said. And it's dangerous. Here's what we're going to do. We did 3 things. First, she filed for a protective order, no contact, no approach, no texts that begin with we know anything. Second, she built a trust, a velvet rope around money that would exist for our grandchildren's education and not for Claire's next story. A spendthrift clause, she explained, tapping the paragraph. Their parents can't touch it. The trustee pays schools directly. If a laptop is needed, the trustee buys it. If a dorm fee comes due, the trustee sends the money to the bursar. Not a cent to Claire or Mason. Third, she retuned our estate plan so thoroughly that it hummed. The house in a living trust. Durable powers of attorney that meant no one would ride in uninvited if one of us became frail. Beneficiary designations that did an elegant end run around probate. We kept the pieces of our life we'd earned and put a moat and a drawbridge and a couple of laws around them. Document everything, Margaret said finally. Screenshots. Voicemails. Even the envelope the snake came in. I'll coordinate with Detective Henry on the police side. You won't need to be the shield anymore. The law will be. I hadn't realized how tired I was of being the shield until she said that, and I felt something in my shoulders unclench that had been clenched since Claire was 17 and learned how to weaponize tears. Detective Henry turned out to be a man who could make you feel both safe and slightly guilty, even when you hadn't done anything but trust the wrong people. He asked if we could provide any evidence that tied Claire to the package, and I gave him what I had: the credit card screenshot with Reptilia Mart, the UPS notification, the sound I couldn't stop hearing in my head. "We'll start there," he said. "Don't expect fireworks. Real investigations are mostly paperwork and polite phone calls." It turned out polite phone calls do good work. The store owner remembered a woman who'd bought a corn snake as a gift, and then, when told shipping living reptiles required specific containers and days, had said, "What if I just pack it myself?" The owner said no. The woman had rolled her eyes and bought a snake and a heat pack and a box from the shop across the strip mall. Detective Henry got the timestamps. They lined up with my card. The store had a camera. The camera had her on it. The shipping store had a register. That register had a label that turned into numbers worn by a brown truck that came to my door. He called a week later. "We're going to bring Mason and Claire in for a conversation," he said. "Would you like to make a statement?" "I already did," I said. By hanging up. He sighed in the way men sigh who have daughters who made choices other than the ones everyone hoped for. Understood. Animal control called too. The snake, male, about 3 years judging by size, had gone to a rescue that specialized in unwanted creatures with bad luck. "He'll get adopted," the woman said on the phone, gentle as a quilt. "We named him Rusty because of the color." "Tell him I'm sorry," I said before I could stop myself. She laughed softly. "We talk to them too," she said, "even if people think we're silly." I sent a donation and received a handwritten note in return, and for a few minutes the world felt like a place where kindness could still matter more than spectacle. Claire sent texts she wasn't allowed to send. "They came in clumps, me and the kids are at the park. Too bad you'll never see them again. You did this to yourself. How could you call the cops on your own family? Good luck dying alone." I forwarded them all to Margaret. She forwarded them to Henry. A judge passed a note back in the only language that matters when people forget how to be decent. Violation. Warning. Next time arrest. Evelyn cried once, quietly, in the kitchen while she rinsed strawberries. "She used to make us macaroni with too much butter," she said, looking down into the sink at water and read. "Remember? That summer she was 10 and wanted to do everything herself." I did remember. I also remembered the first time she lied so cleverly we felt proud and scared at the same time. If you're a parent, you catalog these moments even if you don't mean to. First steps, first lie, first time you realize you may not get the child you thought you were raising. The grandchildren were the new ache in the house. Emma with her fearless grin, Noah with his careful hands. We had a shoebox full of projects they made at our table, paper turkeys that always looked like ghosts wearing hats, popsicle stick frames. The day after the restraining order, we put the box on the shelf behind the couch where the light finds it after 4 in the afternoon. We decided we would not send birthday gifts directly to the children because gifts turn into weapons when they have to pass through someone else's hands. We asked Margaret how to do it without turning love into leverage. "Write letters," she said. "Keep copies. Date them. Put them in a box with tickets you would have sent, with notes about the zoo and the game and the show. When they're 18, hand them the box. Let them see the rope that was thrown and cut anyway." I wrote the first letter that night. "Dear Emma and Noah." I kept it simple. I told them the name of the bird that sang in the maple out front, and that I had seen a fox cross the street at dawn, and that sometimes a person loves you in a way that looks like distance if you don't know the word boundary yet. Then I told them I loved them. I put the letter in a blue envelope and wrote 2 dates on the flap, today and the year they would both be legal adults who could walk into a post office box without asking anyone first. For weeks after the snake, the county prosecutor called. "We're offering a diversion program," she said. "No felony if they complete it. Counseling, community service, animal welfare training, probation, restitution to the rescue, to animal control, to the shipping company you had to call. Do you object?" I stared at the wall where our family portrait had gone slightly crooked the day Claire slammed the door. I don't want my daughter in prison, I said. I want her to understand what she did. That's the goal, she said. They took the deal. I learned about it in bits and pieces. Mason spent his Saturdays cleaning kennels at the county shelter and came home, if the gossip could be believed, smelling like bleach and humility. Claire sat in rooms with bare walls where women took turns saying the words that had wrapped themselves around their lives: compulsion, debt, rage, shame, and then unwrapped them slowly. She had to take a financial literacy course that made her balance a checkbook on paper like it was 1987 and keep a spending diary with real numbers in it instead of excuses. They both had to attend a class on the legal definition of harassment, which seemed quaint to me, like teaching a shark the names of the fish. She sent no more texts. A letter arrived instead, which Margaret read first because that was our agreement. It said, in a hand I'd watched learn to make cursive loops, I'm sorry. It said, I was angry and stupid and not thinking. It said, Mason says he's sorry too, but he's not good at writing apologies. It said, I miss you. It said, the kids miss you. It said, will you hear me out? I put the letter on the mantel where it could be near the faces we used to be. I stood in front of it for a while and did nothing, because sometimes doing nothing is how you make space for the right thing to appear. When the right thing showed up, it did so in a sheriff's deputy's hand, a modify request on the restraining order to allow a single supervised meeting at a neutral site if we agreed. We agreed. The neutral site was a room attached to the family court, a room that wanted to feel friendly and didn't quite pull it off. Low shelves of plastic toys, 2 sofas, a table with a puzzle missing one piece of the cat's tail. They came in together, Claire and the kids, no Mason, part of the deal. Claire looked smaller without her anger. Emma barreled toward me like children do when they haven't learned that adults can put up fences. Noah hung back a step, eyes searching my face for the all clear. Evelyn knelt and held them both and said their names like prayers she'd been saving. Claire sat. She stared at her hands as if they were new. I don't deserve this, she said. Probably not, I said. People who love each other make space anyway. We didn't talk about the snake. We didn't talk about money. We talked about 3rd grade spelling lists and how Noah had learned to tell when a library book is going to be good by sniffing it. We played half a puzzle and pretended not to notice the missing tail. When the hour was up, a woman with a clipboard smiled in that practiced way and said we could leave. Claire looked at me once on her way out. There was something like honesty in her eyes, which is not the same as change, but is where change must shake hands first. The second meeting happened at a garden behind a community center that pretended it was a park and nearly pulled it off. The children ran between raised beds pointing at tomatoes as if they were jewels. Claire held a watering can and kept reaching for it and then setting it back down, like a person practicing not taking. Evelyn and I stood in shade. We were a family observing each other from truce lines. Sometimes that's the best you can do at the beginning. Detective Henry called to say the case file was officially closed. They completed everything, he said. The judge gave them a speech about second chances and long roads. You're allowed to be cautious forever. I plan to be, I said, and meant it without bitterness. Around Thanksgiving, a small envelope arrived addressed in crayons and much effort. Inside were 2 drawings. Emma had made us a house with smoke that looked like cotton candy and 2 people on a porch whose hands were so big you could hold them at the same time with both of yours. Noah had drawn a snake and then very carefully put a heart over its head, as if to apologize on behalf of the universe. His name is Rusty, he wrote in letters that tried so hard. Is he happy now? We sent a letter back, through Margaret, through the supervised channel, through all the adults who make sure a straight line of love isn't hijacked by someone else's twist. We told them Rusty had been adopted by a family who already had a lizard and a tarantula and who probably gave him a mouse once a week and a warm rock to nap on. We told them he was safe. We didn't write what the grown-ups know, that safe and happy are cousins who share a fence. The first winter storm drowned the town in quiet and built white shoulders on every mailbox. Evelyn and I learned the sounds our house makes when snow weighs down the roof and everything creaks like old joints. We learned to like the new silence, the absence of the particular ringtone that used to bring a new catastrophe into the room mid-soup. We lit the little lamp on the piano earlier now, and we read paper books like rebels, and we left the television off most nights, and we went to bed surprised to realize nothing that day had demanded we choose between love and self-respect. Sometime around March, the Trust's first distribution went out to Noah's school for a new violin because he had discovered he loved to make noise that turned into music. A month later, a check left the trustee's desk with Emma's name on the memo line to the regional science fair at a registration fee she had earned, a hotel room so she and her mom could stay close to the center and not have to drive home exhausted and back in the morning. The Trust didn't care about battles. It didn't punish or reward. It paid invoices that said things like learning. If there is a mercy more beautiful than that, a machine built to deliver only good, no one ever showed it to me. On a Tuesday in May, a warm one with wind that smelled like mown dandelions, Claire sent a message through Margaret asking if she could bring the kids to the house to drop off something they'd made. No coming inside, the message said, and I could hear Margaret's legal training in the clarity of that boundary filing the edges smooth. Front porch only. 5 minutes. We said yes. They arrived carrying a birdhouse made from a kit and courage. Emma had painted the roof green and then decided to make stars on it and discovered that gold paint bleeds if you don't let green dry long enough. The stars looked like comets, which made the roof better. Noah had lettered our grandparents on the front in block letters, and the S went the wrong way, and he had decided to leave it because he liked that the house had something wrong with it that was honest. Claire handed me a small paper bag with a thud in it, birdseed that smelled like the inside of a farm store. She did not look past my shoulder into the house. She did not ask for anything. She said we wanted to bring it on Father's Day, but the kids couldn't wait. Father's Day, I said, and the words had that new weight they get when the last time you said them there was a snake in the room. After they left, I climbed a stepladder and hung the birdhouse from the maple closest to the window where I drink my coffee. 2 hours later, a chickadee landed on the little peg and looked suspiciously inside because trust is a thing birds and people rebuild with equal care. On Father's Day a year to the day after the box, our doorbell rang again. This time it was our neighbor's teenage son with a paper plate of cinnamon rolls his mother was embarrassed about because they're ugly but good, which is also how I would describe most of the best parts of my life. We ate them with too much icing and the sound of a lawnmower 2 streets over turning summer into a smell. At 10 a.m. another knock came. No van. No uniform. Just Evelyn's sister Sheila in sunglasses and a grin, holding a brown envelope with my name on it. I saw a small person taping this to your door, she said. She ran like a rabbit when she noticed me noticing. Inside were 2 cards and a photograph. The photograph was of Emma and Noah standing next to a cardboard sign that said community garden with their thumbs up and dirt on their knees. The first card came from Emma, a heart with steps drawn under it, like love is a stairway. The second came from Noah, a bird that looked like an airplane because he didn't know yet he had invented art. On the back of Noah's card, in my daughter's handwriting, there were 6 words that behaved themselves. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for boundaries. I set the photograph on the mantel where the family portrait had sat before it learned to fall. I put the cards behind the photograph like letters tucked into a book you love. Evelyn leaned into me, and we watched a chickadee scoot inside the birdhouse we hung where we can see kindness visit and leave again all morning long. After lunch, I went into my office because Margaret had sent something by email she'd promised would arrive today. It was a letter in legal language that wore a friendly tie. It said the trust had been funded with another year's portion, that the investments had done fine, that the world hadn't ended, because I said the word no in a sentence that used to end with of course. It had a page attached that listed distributions, fees paid to a summer reading program, a check to the violin teacher, a new pair of shoes for track meets approved because the coach wrote a note on school letterhead explaining why Emma needed them, and isn't that a beautiful kind of bureaucracy? I sent a reply that said thank you for making money behave. In the afternoon, we took a walk down our street where kids had chalked messages that ranged from you are loved to a complicated map of Mars. The Hendersons waved from their porch. Mrs. Patel asked about the birdhouse and whether the maple was strong enough to hold it, and we talked about saplings and storms and how to tie a rope without strangling the tree. Normal talk. Neighbor talk. Not drama. Not crisis. Evelyn squeezed my hand at the corner. We got through the worst thing, she said. We got through the worst of it, I agreed, because experience teaches you to leave a door open for reality. Boundaries are a kind of door too, one that only opens when everybody who walks through agrees to wipe their shoes. That evening the light went honey-colored and the maples glowed from the inside like lanterns. I made dinner the way men of my generation make dinner, by opening jars and not ruining anything. We ate and we didn't check our phones even once because we have learned peace doesn't like to be interrupted. After the dishes, I sat at the table with a pen and a new blue envelope and wrote a letter to my grandchildren. Dear Emma and Noah, I wrote, remember that birdhouse? A chickadee moved in. It's going to teach its babies to fly from our tree. They will think falling is a problem until they discover it is a plan. You will do scary things this year and you will not be alone. Love, Grandpa. I put the letter in the box marked with love for later and wrote the date and the year they turn 18 on the flap because I am a man who likes to make promises he can keep. I put the box back on the shelf and the house made its evening sound, the small clicks and ticks that old places make when they settle into night like a person into a favorite chair. Before bed, I walked to the living room and looked once more at the coffee table where the box had sat a year ago. It was just a table again now, with a bowl of keys and a magazine I keep meaning to finish. You can stare at a wound until it becomes a window, or a mirror, or a lesson. I turned off the lamp. I went upstairs. I slept in a house where the only hissing came from the lawn sprinklers at dawn, and where the only holes in boxes were the ones we punch on purpose, with love, so the living things inside can breathe.